Hello and welcome to my tropical garden rebuild here in the UK. I've decided to come out on a sunny February day and start clearing some of these plants from down the bottom so I can build my rear path. It's not the ideal time of the year, but I do need to get on, so let's get on with it. Okay, so today I'm going to try and move some of these palms so I can mark out and then hopefully start to put in this path to the rear. If you're new to this channel and it's the first time you've seen any of my videos, it's probably worth going back a few parts, otherwise none of this is going to make sense. But basically there's a stream going around here and a new path going in here, so I'm going to have to probably move some of these palms. So despite the bad back, I want to get on. Let's get digging. Okay, so I've dug out one of the first Trachycarpus fortunei with about 2 foot, 2.5 foot of trunk, and another chunk of Musa Bijou. There to be moved to other parts of the garden. They just didn't work with the way the new path was going to go around here. They would have looked all in a straight line. They would have all grew into each other. They was doing that anyway, so I knew at some point I was going to have to deal with this situation because they were too close anyway, and just didn't give me the look that I wanted. Just a quick look at the roots for those that don't know on a Trachycarpus fortunei. The roots will never really get any bigger than this, about the size of a pencil. So that helps them to be transplanted. Ideally you want to get as big a root ball as you can, but sort of one of the reasons that they do move well is because they have, even if this is lifted, I still have all these little fibrous feeder roots all still underneath. We still have some roots that haven't been damaged and intact. So yes, it's going to slow it down and set it back for a while, but as long as I water it and look after it a bit, it should eventually, give it a couple of years, sort of restart growing and recover. It's going to be in shock for a little while once I've moved it, and then it's going to probably concentrate for the next year after that, maybe 2 years, just trying to build its root ball. This is part of the reason that when you buy these palms that have got 1 metre of trunk, 2 metres of trunk in small pots, they've been grown in fields, dug up, put in small pots, way too smaller pots for what they should be in, and they look good, they give you the specimens, but they can often take a long time to recover from that, whereas a small palm will probably outgrow, it's been said many times, they'll probably outgrow these big ones. But like I say, I needed this one moving, so I've got a couple that I'm going to have to transplant. It is heavy work, but this is one of the smaller ones and a good way to start when your back's aching. But let's get on with it. Okay, now I need to think about the other palm in that area, and that's this waggy. So I've roughly marked out where the path is going to go. I may tweak that a little bit to make the curves a little bit nicer. The palm I've just dug up has been just shifted over a little bit for now. That's not been planted. I've just heaped some soil up against it till I can put it in the place that I finally want. Now this waggy is going to definitely be in the way of the path. I could go more across, but then as that curves round, it's going to be right against the Trachycarpus trunks and plants in here. I won't be able to really plant and cover that, so, and because I want some ground covering plants, I've had to bring it a little bit away from that, and that's meant keeping it the same width as all my other paths. It's going to come straight across where the waggy was, and I thought that may be the case, and it may just be that I literally have to dig this out to move this from there to there. Now the other thing that I want to think about is, as I walk around here, the path curves, and the feeling I'm trying to get is I've cut this path through the woodlands, so I almost need to make it look like it's curved that way round to get past these plants, but then I also need a plant, maybe the waggy here, so it looks like I've had to, that plant was already there and I've had to curve back round, because otherwise why wouldn't have someone just built a straight path, you know? And the idea is I'm trying to make this look designed but also in a natural setting. So I think by moving the waggy just across a bit, and I know it seems a lot of work for very little, but like with the tree ferns I put in the earlier episodes, sometimes that little movement might bring the right kind of feeling to the garden. Okay, looks like I'm going to be digging again. Right, that's the waggy dug up, and it weren't too bad because it looks like most of its roots had rooted quite shallow. It's been in a few years, but I seem to have cut through most of the top roots, but these roots from when I originally planted it don't seem to have gone down much, so they all seem really intact. So hopefully that's not going to set it back too much because they haven't been severed, and once it gets going shouldn't have too many problems. Right, let's get it planted just to the left of it. Okay, that's the waggy planted in its new spot. Hardly moved at all, but still looks quite good. I like the pairing between the two. It's now opened up. If I come across here, I'll take a few steps back so you get the feeling. You're now going to walk around here across, and this is going to feel like you're under a walkway through like a palm forest almost, as these palms get bigger, and it's allowed me now the space to get lots of underplanting in between the sides of the path. Somewhere along here is going to be the step, and then somewhere along there is going to be my new addition to the part of the plan, which I'll talk about in the video when I do that path. I keep adding loads of work. I know this waggy's only moved such a little way, and just to clarify, that one is still being moved. I've only temporarily pushed it to the side until the path goes in, because at the minute it is leaning. But going back to the waggy, it sort of looks very sort of much like a focal point wherever you go. And if I walk back round this way, as I walk around here, I like the way it's just going to sort of lean over the edge of the path, but not too much. It's going to take my eye out. Yeah, a lot of work for very little result, but I know what it's going to look like in the end, and that's the point. And I know that I had to move them to get it the way that I envisaged the design in the end, especially the extra little details that I'm going to be adding very soon. That's going to give me my woodland walkway, and obviously the stream's going to go under this bridge. It's going to go round there, and now we're going to have these palm trees almost framing the stream going round. And I can kind of imagine walking around here one day. This is what's pushing me along, that I can, as I walk past, there's a few koi swimming around, or fish going along that stream into the pond. And it's them thoughts that keep me working, keep me pushing, despite the back, despite the wet, despite the cold, because I want to get as much done as I can before sort of summer gets here, so I can sit and enjoy the garden. And yeah, let's get to the next bit. Right, so I've decided that this chamaerops humilis that I got cheap off Marketplace last year for £100 is going to be planted here. I did consider whether to put a Trachycarps fortunei there, but I just felt like over time the growth here was going to shade out all these tropical type plants, and the fact that I have chamaerops humilis behind it there and another one there, it's sort of gonna help with that repeat planting sort of style. So if we look at this, it's obviously been in a pot quite a long time, or been dug up and put into a pot that isn't good enough, because we've got all these roots well up out of the pot. So obviously I need to dig quite a big hole, get that in. I am going to raise this ground a bit, so there's going to be some rocks that side, and it will be slightly higher. I don't want to go too higher, because where the pond is, that's going to drop down about 6-8, probably about 8 inches lower to the water level. So I don't want to create too big a mound, because it would look a bit silly. So probably just enough rocks to lift it up a few inches. Right, digging. I'm just digging the hole for the chamaerops humilis, and I'm nearly a foot down. If we have a look at my soil, we can see that I'm really quite lucky. Look at that, just crumbles lovely. That's why my garden drains so freely. I know further down I'm going to hit more stony soil, because I've had an extension on the house before, and probably a metre down I'll have clay, so that's really good. But I just thought to myself, I probably need to take this chamaerops, tip it up, take it out of its pot, because I don't know that it's fully rooted. I might dig a really deep hole and then find out that the roots are only, it's been dug up and there's only a few roots in the bottom. So I'll tip it up now, have a look, and then I'll know how much to dig out. Okay, the good news is it seems to have a good root structure to it, lots of little fibrous roots inside, and then its main roots are going right round to the bottom. The bad news is I'm gonna have to dig a deep hole, because it's from there to there, nearly 2 foot. But I'm only going to plant it about that deep, because my soil's going to be raised round here with a few rocks. Palms do tend to push out the ground a bit, so I do want to get it near soil level, to be fair. So let's get on with digging this to nearly 2 foot. On the plus side, it'll give me a good idea how the digging's going to be for the pond. That's the hole now finally dug to depth. After about 1 foot, I got through the topsoil and then hit this more sort of silty, stony level. I've basically put on the very bottom layer some compost mixed with some of the better topsoil, just to help compact the root ball in. If you look at the root ball, there's lots of voids and gaps, and also this bit of a hole in here that was made from the shape of the pot. So in the hole, I have piled that up more to try and fill that void, to avoid leaving air pockets, to be fair, and just help it settle in a little bit better. I've also squared off the corners, because I feel like, and it's been stated in the past, sometimes when you put plants in and they really like the conditions they're in, the roots will come out and just keep going round and round and round, because they'll find the easiest path. But rather than keep going around a circle, if they get to the corner, they won't be able to turn as easy, so they're more likely to grow into the ground around. So the next bit is going to be getting that into the ground. That went in much easier than I thought. It just slid straight in. I've wriggled it about a bit and tried to twist it just to help it settle. I've chose the angle I think it looks best for the house. The reason I've done that is I've made it lean that way because my son is coming around there. So I feel that that is the natural way it would have grown if it had been planted in my garden. And then eventually this bit's going to come towards the pond, and this one will grow towards the lawn. Maybe in 10 years time this might be too far over the lawn. If then, I'll have to deal with that later on. But for now, I really like the way it is. It's a real focal point for me. There's the chamaerops behind it, there's this one here, and it's going to look really good with the cycads, yuccas, everything like that. And also the sun's going to come straight over the top of it from around that way, and not shade out any of these plants around here, which are going to be real sun loving plants. Really happy with the decision. I'm now going to backfill around it I'm not going to add any more compost as my topsoil is really good, and these are very Mediterranean type plants. They thrive in quite poor conditions, to be fair. One thing I would say, I forgot to say when I dug the hole, is if you was on pure clay and you just had a big hole with clay surrounding every side and clay at the bottom, then you've got to choose whether this is the right conditions for these sort of palms, because they do like really free draining soil. Now, a lot of people are going to say backfill it with grit, shingle, gravel, whatever to help. That just creates a sump. Basically, if you get a hole and you fill it full of gravel and the outside of it is clay, water is going to find its easiest way out. And actually what you're going to do is, rather than the water go into the gravel or the grit and then go soak into the sides, it's actually going to do the opposite, and the water in the clay is going to soak into your hole full of grit and gravel. So you're actually going to create a well full of gravel. So in that case, if you've got that type of soil and you can't increase the drainage good enough for these more sort of Mediterranean free draining type plants, then a lot of people will use raised planters, built-in sleepers, something like that, to get it out of the ground so it drains really freely. I just thought I should point that out, because I didn't want someone with completely different soil conditions to me copying what I had done and having a completely different result. So going back to the right plant, right place, you know, you've got to pick the plant that suits that conditions. Trachycarpus, they will deal with clay soils really well. They actually quite like it, and they can handle a lot more water. But plants like chamaerops humilis, yuccas, stuff like that, they're going to want good drainage so the roots don't rot in our cold, wet winters. But these are a pretty tough plant, to be fair. Okay, so that's the first palm of the new garden design planted, my chamaerops humilis. I'm really happy with where it is. I like the way it looks really good with the other drought tolerant type plants around here. There's another chamaerops humilis behind it, so it all ties in really good. I've left it just slightly higher than the soil around it because it's going to have these types of rocks around here, and obviously there'll be rocks around the pond. So then that allows me to put pebbles and gravel around this area as well. So really happy with how it's looking, and it's the first of many, in case you're wondering, because sometimes obviously people dig these ponds out and then plant afterwards. Well, I'm trying to put the backbone plants in first. I think you see how much soil that's come out and the mess that's made. That's going to be much harder if I've already got the liner in and rocked in. When I come to doing the pond and I have to put the liner in, then I will just cover plants like this with a blanket temporarily, because they're quite spiky, to be fair, and you know, I don't want to make sure I puncture the liner. But I feel like if I get all these backbone plants in first, then it's going to make it easier for me to see the shape that I want the pond to be. Okay, it's getting near to the end of the day now, and I'm going to go in and get a drink and something to eat. So just got to do a little bit more packing up and clearing away. But I think you can start to see just them extra plants, this chamaerops humilis here, how it ties in with the plants behind. Just moving that waggy out and opening that space is going to make you feel like you more want to walk down there. The palms all sort of work together from there to there to there and there, in my opinion. And also, as these palms here that I've just moved, trying to find where they are on my finger, as they get bigger, they're gonna blank out that space, because it's going to allow the garden to look a little bit more private as well. Right, gonna leave it at that. Hopefully I can get on with that path soon, and then there'll be an update on that. And it's getting there, one little bit at a time. Thanks for watching. You know where to leave the comments, and subscribe if you want to, like if you want to. If not, see you next time.